These developers tend to like to run multiple Claude sessions at once, and they've started calling this multi-Clauding. So you might see sessions where people have like 6 Claudes open on their computer at the same time.
Hey, I'm Alex. I lead Claude Relations here at Anthropic. Today we're going to be talking about Claude Code, and I'm joined by my colleague, Kat.
Hey, I'm Kat. I'm the product manager for Claude Code.
Kat, I want to kick this off just talking about the insane rate of shipping in Claude Code. Feels like literally every time I open it up in my terminal, there's a new product or a new feature, something for me to use. Can you walk me through what the process looks like of the team going from an idea to actually shipping something to end users?
Yeah, so the Claude Code team is full of very product-minded engineers, and a lot of these features are just built bottoms up. It's like you're a developer and you really wish you had this thing, and then you build it for yourself. And the way that our process works is instead of writing a doc, it's so fast to use Claude Code to prototype a feature that most of the time, people just prototype the feature and then they ship it internally to Ants. And if the reception is really positive, then that's a very strong signal that the external world will like it too. And that's actually our bar for shipping it externally. And then, of course, there's always features that like aren't exactly right, that need some tweaking. And if we feel like, okay, Ants aren't really using it that much, then we just go back to the drawing board and we say like, okay, what else could we change about this?
And when we say Ants here, we mean Anthropic employees.
Yes.
Yeah, that's really fascinating. I've never seen a product have as strong of like a dog fooding loop as Claude Code. Do you think that's something we purposely did, or that just kind of naturally arise from the product itself?
It is quite intentional, and it's also a really important reason why Claude Code works so well. Because it's so easy to prototype features on Claude Code, we do push people to prototype as much as possible. But it's hard to reason about like exactly how a developer will use a tool because developers are so heterogeneous in their workflows. So oftentimes, even if you theoretically know you want to do something, like even if you theoretically know that you want to build an IDE integration, there's still a range of like potential ways you could go about it. And often prototyping is the only way that you can really feel how the product will actually be in your workflow. So yeah, it's through the process of dog fooding that we decide what version of a feature we decide to ship.
I see. And there's something about the almost like the flexibility, but also the constraints of the terminal too, that allows for easy addition of like new features, which I've kind of noticed, where it's like because we have the primitives built out of like slash commands and things, it's easy to add another one on top of that.
Yeah, it's totally designed to be customizable.
Yeah.
And because so many developers are familiar with the terminal, it makes like new feature onboarding super straightforward. Because, for example, for a feature like hooks, which lets you add a bit of determinism around Claude Code events, because every developer knows how to write a script. And really, at the end of the day, all hook is a script. And so you don't need to learn a new technology to customize Claude Code. You write this script that you already know how to do, and then you add it to one of the Claude Code events, and now you have some determinism.
We're really trying to meet customers or developers where they are, I guess, with this tool. Yeah. Switching gears slightly, so alongside this insane rate of shipping is also the insane growth rate of Claude Code with developers everywhere. Can you walk me through what that's been like to kind of be on this rocket ship, and how are we seeing various developers, whether it's at startups or individuals or at even large enterprises, use Claude?
So one of the magical things about Claude Code is that the onboarding is so smooth. After you do the npm install, Claude Code kind of just like works out of the box without any configuration. And this is true whether you're an indie developer through to if you're an engineer at a Fortune 500. I think this is the magic behind Claude Code because it has access to all of the local tools and files that you have. You have this like very clear mental model for what Claude Code is capable of. We do see different use case patterns though between smaller companies and larger ones. We find that engineers at smaller companies tend to run Claude more autonomously using things like auto accept mode, which lets Claude make edits by itself without approval of each one. We also find that these developers tend to like to run multiple Claude sessions at once. And they've started calling this multi-Clauding. So you might see sessions where people have like 6 Claudes open on their computer at the same time. Maybe each of them are in a different Git workspace or in a different copy of the Git repo. And they're just like managing each of them. Whenever anyone stops and asks for feedback, they'll jump in there and then send it off and let it continue running. And on the other end of the spectrum for larger companies, we find that engineers really like to use plan mode. So plan mode is a way for developers to tell Claude Code to take a second, explore the code base, understand the architecture, and create an engineering plan before actually jumping into the code itself. And so we find that this is really useful for harder tasks and more complex changes.
So going back to multi-clouding, just because I think that's a fascinating concept, I'm sure we kind of imagined folks wanting to do things like that, but maybe it was like somewhat surprising. Is there other things in that domain of like, oh, wow, this is a usage pattern that we really did not expect that have kind of popped up organically and we've shifted our roadmap around a little bit?
Yeah, I think multi-clouding is the biggest one because this is something that we thought was just a power user feature that like a few people would want to do. But in fact, this is actually a really common way in which people use Claude. And so, for example, they might have one Claude instance where they only ask questions and this one doesn't edit code. That way they can have another Claude instance in the same repo that does edit code, and these two don't interfere with each other. Other things that we've seen are people really like to customize Claude Code to handle specialized tasks. So we've seen people build like SRE agents on Claude Code, security agents, incident response agents. And what that made us realize is that integrations are so important for making sure Claude Code works well. And so we've been encouraging people to spend more time to tell Claude Code about, hey, these are the CLI tools we commonly use, or to set up remote MCP servers to get access to logs and ticket management software.
When these engineers are customizing Claude Code, does that mean they're creating sub-agents or are they creating markdown files like Claude MD files?
Yeah.
How exactly are they creating these different types of agents?
Yeah, I think the most common ways that we've seen people customize is by investing a lot into the Claude MD file. So the Claude MD file is our concept of memory. And so it's the best place for you to tell Claude Code about what your team's goals are, how the code is architected, any gotchas in the code base, any best practices. And investing in Claude MD, we've heard dramatically improves the quality of the output. The other way that people customize Claude Code is by adding custom slash commands. So if there's a prompt that you're always typing, you can add that into the custom slash command, and you can also check these in so that you share them with the rest of your team. And then you can also add custom hooks. So if, for example, you want Claude Code to run lints before it makes a commit, this is something that's great for a hook. If you want Claude Code to send you a Slack notification every time it's done working, this is actually the original inspiration for making hooks. And so these are all customizations that people are building today.
Tell me more about what is the Claude Code SDK?
The Claude Code SDK is a great way to build general agents. Claude Code SDK gives you access to all of the core building blocks of an agent, including you can bring your own system prompts, you can bring your own custom tools, and what you get from the SDK is a core agentic loop where we handle the user turns and we handle executing the tool calls for you. You get to use our existing permission system so that you don't need to build one from scratch. And we also handle interacting with the underlying API. So we make sure that we have backoff if there's any API errors. We very aggressively prompt cache to make sure that your requests are token efficient. If you're prototyping building an agent from scratch, if you use the Claude Code SDK, you can get up and running with something pretty powerful within like 30 minutes or so. We've been seeing people build really cool things with it. We open sourced our Claude Code on GitHub integration, which is completely built on the SDK. And we've seen people build security agents on it, SRE agents, incident response agents. And these are just within the coding domain. outside of coding, we've seen people prototype legal agents, compliance agents. This is very much intended to be a general SDK for all your agent needs.
The SDK is pretty amazing to me. I feel like we've lived in the single request API world for so long.
Yeah.
And now we're moving to like a next level abstraction almost, where we're going to handle all the nitty gritty of the things you mentioned. Where is the SDK headed? What's next there?
We're really excited about the SDK as the next way to unlock another generation of agents. We're investing very heavily in making sure SDK is best in class for building agents. So all of the nice features that you have in Claude Code will be available out of the box in the SDK, and you can pick and choose which ones you want to keep. So for example, if you want your agent to be able to have a to-do list, great. You have the to-do list tool out of the box. If you don't want that, it's really easy to just delete that tool. If your agent needs to edit files, for example, to update its memory, you get that out of the box. And if you decide, okay, mine won't edit files or it'll edit files in a different way, you can just bring your own implementation.
Okay, so it's extremely customizable. Basically general purpose in the sense that you could swap out the system prompt or the tools for your own implementations and they just nicely slot in to whatever thing you're building for, whether it's in an entirely different domain than code, right?
Yeah, totally. I'm really excited to see what people hack on top of this. I think like, especially for people who are just trying to prototype an agent, this is like, I think by far the fastest way to get started. Like we really spent almost a year perfecting this harness. And this is the same harness that Claude Code runs on. And so if you want to just jump right into the specific integrations that your agent needs, and you want to jump right into like just working on the system prompt to share context about the problem space with the agent, and you don't want to deal with the agent loop, this is like the best way to circumvent all the general purpose harness and just add your like special sauce to it.
All right. Well, you heard it here. You got to go build on the SDK. Before we wrap up here, I'm really curious to hear your own tips for how you use Claude Code and what are some best practices we can share with developers.
When you work with Claude Code or any agentic tool, I think the most important thing is to clearly communicate what your goals are to the tool. I think a lot of people think that prompting is this like magical thing, but it really isn't. It's very much about, okay, did I clearly articulate what my purpose is, like what my purpose with this task is, how I'm evaluating the output of the task, any constraints in the design system. And I think usually when you can clearly communicate these things, Claude Code will either be able to do them or just tell you that like, okay, this thing like I'm not able to do because A, B, C, and do you want to try like D, F instead?
So it's all about the communication, just as if you're working with another engineer.
Yeah, totally. And another thing is, if you notice that Claude Code did something weird, you can actually just ask it why it wanted to do that. And it might tell you something like, okay, there was something in the Claude MD that said this, or I read something in this file that like gave me this like impression. And then that way you can actually use like talking to Claude as a way to debug. It doesn't always work, but I think it's definitely worth trying, and it's like a common technique that we use.
Use Claude Code to debug Claude Code.
Yeah. Like the same way that when working with a human, if they say something that you didn't expect, you might be like, oh, interesting. Like, what gave you that impression? Or why did you think this? And I think you can do the same with agents too.
That's fascinating. Well, Kat, this has been great. Really appreciate the time.
Thanks for having me.